check. There he is. Excellent. Hold on. Hold on. We're going to get straight in here. It's me. And what's going on? Let's see. Remove you guys from Green Room. Hi, Chicago. Can you hear me now? I don't know where you went, but
I hear you. We're live.
Excellent. Oh, excellent. I'm glad we're live. And I think we'll have Boston Brian here in a minute filling in for Johnny. He normally does our little conduit thing. I have to confess, I could say that we had technical difficulties because we did, but I honestly feel like I was just distracted by the wonderful curtain they put up taking Trump's name off the John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Center. Many people maybe perhaps don't know this, and hi, welcome joining the show as you would after this first break. I greatly appreciate it, and thanks, Devin, for being our long-suffering engineer in Chicago when we have technical issues. And the irony is that I was, I flew in this morning at 5 a.m. I've been wide awake. I've been ready to go. I slept like 45 minutes last night. And usually, Johnny's here when I'm loopy, which I think is how the show will be done today. No doubt. But I have to say there's like this, I'm feeling a little bit of the Shudden and the Freude watching as they try to hide Trump's name being chipped off of this building. And if you haven't seen it, it is a glory to behold, ladies and gentlemen. It is, there is a live cam on it right now, and people are, you can hear them. People are getting selfies in front of it. They are, trying to find an angle where they can see it happen. And I have to say, there have been ladies and gentlemen, there have been a lot of pathetic things in this presidency, and there will continue to be more. I don't want you to feel like we're going to run out anytime soon, because there is no Iran deal. Can we just start there? After 39 tries, this will be a cool round 40, which is, in celebration of Donald Trump's 80th birthday, where, it's a big birthday for him because his age finally has reached double his IQ. And it will be the 40th attempt also at trying to, I was about to say trying to get a deal with Iran. I don't actually believe he's been in the process of doing that. I think, quite frankly, that's just the number of lies, and it's a ticker that's going on like the national debt. It's not going to slow down or stop anytime soon. By the way, hit the like, share the show. Infotainmentwars.com is a great way to subscribe on the YouTube channel. And of course, patreon.com/HalSparks, great way to support the show, and super chats and all that kind of stuff. Now, beg your pardon, I'm still nursing myself back. I'm amazed that I have a singing voice last night. Speaking voice after singing last night. Because as I managed to make it through. I was very nervous, but I did. It was a great show last night. I want to thank Mark P. in particular for coming down to the show. A lot of lovely people showed up, and I actually can speak. So, hey, that's good. Oh, and we will be up in about 30 seconds on Instagram. There we are. Welcome, Instagrammers, at Hal Sparks on Instagram. Now, the getting Trump's name off the Kennedy Center is a small thing, but sometimes in the midst of giant storms over the course of your life, it's the little things that bring a bright, spark into your day. No pun intended. You're welcome. And I have had this thing running in the background while I've been doing other stuff, just watching people walk by and take selfies in front of the Kennedy Center. And Summer and I, folks maybe don't know this, is that Summer and I often will go to DC for my birthday. So, we try to make a little trip because we're very homebound, because I do my show out of the house. I do my live stream out of the house. There are days when I don't leave my house. It's like I live in this COVID cycle all over again. But to make up for that, we take trips, we go places. Now, obviously, as I'm touring more, that's less necessary, and she just comes along with me on some of these. But when we haven't had a show in DC, for Sexy Liberal, let's say, we'll make a special trip, usually around my birthday. And so I'll go and spend my birthday in DC. And that's how I know, by the way, that Trump's whole thing about, you can't walk to your car without being, murdered, sexually assaulted, robbed, and fondled, and not necessarily in that order, is crap. Because we've had lovely times there, walking around at night, having a bite of dinner, like getting out of dinner at 9 o'clock and walking to our hotel in Washington, and it's not that big a deal. It really, this idea of the big ooh scary city thing is really for the who's at home. It's for the people out in the Midwest or the Near East. The people that will, unless of course there's going to be a rally followed by a riot, are not going to go to DC anytime soon, any more than they're going to go to LA, Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, Detroit, whatever. So it's easy to make a boogeyman out of those cities, and Trump has taken great advantage of that, because the news helps. Because as much as Trump complains about the news being fake all the time, the reality is that it does, and always has, skewed reality. It's not being fake. It's just that normal life isn't news. Murders, assaults, robberies, explosions, apartment fires. Those are the kind of things that make the news. Slow speed chases. Literally, we had so many high speed chases in LA that they created a show called Chips. And don't get me started on Chips Patrol, the follow-up show, because Chips already it stands for California Highway Patrol. There's already a patrol, and it was California Highway Patrol. Aggravating. So most of the folks in the Midwest that Trump is trying to BS into supporting, the MAGA agenda and Trump and the Republicans, aren't going to go to those cities anytime soon. And the irony is that when they do, they have a lovely time. They're honest to God. We've had, the good liars and some other folks walking around, talking to maggots at the rallies and that kind of stuff. I think one of their next things they need to do is just go to big tourist areas and talk to people from red states. Find the Trump supporter at the pier in Chicago, or at, Blues Fest, or, those kind of things. Any kind of gathering. Obviously, DC would be a difficult one because they're going to be there politically. But they're out in California, they're in San Francisco, they're down in, visiting relatives in some of these big cities, and they're walking around, and they're fine, and they're enjoying the food and the life and all that kind of stuff. Talk to those folks, and then ask them how much gas and arguably, or how much their plane ticket cost them to get there, and whether or not they think that's still Joe Biden's fault. That I think would be a nice train of thought in this, because we are at an inflection point, folks, where Donald Trump's poll numbers, the guy on CNN who, basically does interpretive dance around the polling, and tries to pun his way around actual commentary. It's adorable, but it's getting so that they're so absurd. Donald Trump's polls are so bad that they don't require any exaggeration. They don't require you to point at them and go, "Oh my God," because you can just look at them and understand that when, 61% of maggots think Donald Trump is responsible for how bad the economy is right now, that's not, you don't have to tap dance around that. It's not going to take a lot of effort to get into, to convince people that that's not good, or at least it's counterproductive to what the plan might be. And it wouldn't be a big deal, except it's everything. Right now, one of the things that Donald Trump is up against as he peers down the barrel of 80 and enters his 81st year, because that's how time works. He's putting when you turn 80, you put your 80th year behind you. And as he enters 81, he is increasingly, it seems, and we'll talk about this this hour, and Phil will be joining us after this, and we'll get Boston Brian in here. He's languishing out there somewhere in cyberspace, trying to punch his way through a series of menus. Probably that's what's holding him. Yeah. Okay, I will send him a new link so that he has it. There we go. I can't give you a whole new one because Chicago's on that one, and it's working just fine. So we'll talk with Boston Brian about this probably after the next break. But I want to be abundantly clear. If it was one thing, it wouldn't matter. That's one of the things I think that frustrated a lot of people on our side of the aisle, was that there would be these enormous scandals, grotesque, enormous scandals, the Access Hollywood tape, the obvious fraud, those kind of things. But they would happen in maggots' brains, anyways, in a bubble. They would happen in isolation. But it was not until that memo last year that they started to stack. And as the stack has grown, that is what, think of the poles as a tree branch, that they could handle one vulture sitting on them. But now there's 9 vultures sitting on that limb, and it's starting to bend and in some cases break. Brian, we got you. We'll get you in here. Don't worry. I see him in my chat room. Try a Chrome browser if that helps. Sometimes it can be a little persnickety. We'll make it work. I know. I believe in you. But it is this cascading, rolling story. And this week, the stack of stories. And this week we had another, an expected, a hurricane season appear on the horizon, where no matter how many Sharpies Trump has, there is a Cat 5 hurricane headed his way in the form of Maggie Haberman's book, Regime Change, which includes a lot of stuff in it that I've talked about on this show ad nauseum. You guys who are regular viewers of the live stream and listen on the radio have known I've hit on all these points, to the point where even without some sort of insider in the White House throwing me tidbits and adding other. And by the way, we'll talk about also who I think the insider is, because it's the, Key Sonny Bono, who benefits is the big question about who leaked that stuff in a room where there were really only 6 people. And there are only 2 people who might benefit from the way this story came out. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But as this came out, this was just a slice of this. And the description of some of the awful that Donald Trump is alleged to have participated in is, for those of us that aren't, I've never been surprised by this. We've always known who he is. The idea that maggots are somehow waking up to the idea that he's a liar and a grifter and has been selling them a bill of goods and all that kind of stuff is, I honestly find myself still being shocked by it. I don't know how. Honest to God, I don't know why I keep being surprised at how long it took them, maybe. But when we look at these poll numbers and the thing you need to remember is there is a lot of emotion behind these things. People aren't just like, if you had to flip a coin, or if you had to, just on the nature, okay, have gas prices gone up or down? Have grocery prices gone up or down? Has the stock market gone up? Is there a K-shaped economy where the stock market is going up? We've got a newly minted trillionaire in Elon Musk, which again, I guess, if you think about what would be the return on investment on rigging an election, that might be one of them. Not saying that's what happened, but it certainly paid off if that was the case. But in that K-shaped economy, if you ask them about it, if you ask your average maggot about it, and I'm sure we have some in the chat room, how they feel about that, how they really feel about that, they're not just going to give you a number. I'm 65% for it. I'm 20% upset and 80% okay with it. They're going to say I'm against it with all the fervor that they have. See, I told you he'd get in there, and right as the break. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Boston Brian's going to join us. It's going to be spectacular. We're up on our feet and rolling, and it's great. And this is what happens when we don't have Johnny Million. It's a lot of work. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, I get it. You've been doom scrolling since 20.
I got you in here, buddy. There he is. Look at that.
I don't know what was going on. My apologies. Four
That's
different mics, none of them work.
you don't have to apologize for gremlins. That's just what happens.
But I'm on my iPhone with a
With
remote mic,
earbuds.
so it doesn't sound too
I think
poorly.
you might want to use the mic that's in the phone, if that's possible.
Let me see.
If it'll allow you to just use the microphone on the, because it'll be the iPhone microphone is pretty rock solid, man. Uh-oh. Extreme close-up. Extreme close-up. All right. Oh, there we go. Something clicked. It sounds kind of the same, so maybe you were already on it.
It sounds the same?
Yeah. You sound okay, though. It's all right. Yeah.
Sorry about that. What's going on?
That's okay. Hi. Good to see you as well. So I was just talking about, before we went to the break, and we'll be back in just a second, but the main thing about the emotions that go with these poll numbers that people aren't really talking about, because I think it's almost like talking about gas prices in terms of just the sheer number, but the number of people just walking to the pump and going, damn it. Like, that's what really matters. And that's what will affect the midterms. It's what's affecting.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter. This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So joining us right now is our dear friend Boston Brian, who has a live stream he does on Sundays and several other times during the week as well. But you can particularly catch that one and all the links that go with it. Brian, I was talking right before we went to break when we were getting you in here about when we think of poll numbers and gas prices and grocery prices and inflation, there's a tendency to talk about the numbers, because that's how they are measured, but they are not how they are experienced. The average person, including Trump's base, are having an emotional experience of this situation. And I don't know if you saw it, but I did a clip on PBD, the Patrick Bet Dum Dum podcast, where he had this guy talking on about how, people are talking about the economy, but when you look at the numbers, it's great. Never mind the fact that the numbers are fake, whatever, that I believe they're manipulated. That's why Trump fired all the people who actually keep track and are, is manipulating them to make himself look good, which he does with everything. Look at the attack on the USS Gerald Ford. We'll talk about that if you want to. But the biggest part of this was this guy was like, the jobs numbers technically, and who has a job, but wages aren't catching up, are behind on inflation. He's just like the numbers jobs, the unemployment number, everything. He said everything but inflation looked good. The 10-year yield and all that kind of stuff. And it struck me while I was listening to them that these guys think about things in terms of like a business who's looking to buy a dip soon, or if I'm going to invest in a piece of equipment, I might not buy it right now. I'll buy it next quarter or the quarter after that. I can put it off. I need it maybe, but I can shuffle it around. But most people need gas in their tank today to pick their kids up at school, that kind of stuff. And it was amazing to realize, listening to these guys, that that's exactly the split. That when you're a millionaire or a billionaire, or in the case of Elon Musk now, a trillionaire, that's not a factor. Certainly not in Trump's mind, even though he's broker than most of us most of the time. He lives on debt and it's somebody else's money, so he doesn't care. But he can't experience that feeling. You know what I mean? I might invest in this building, I might not. If it's a deal, I can walk away from it. You can't walk away from, there's no deal to be had at the gas pump. There's no deal to be had at the grocery store. That's where I think they're disjointed. Yeah.
I feel like we learned this lesson to a certain extent in the 2024 election, right? Where we were, to some extent, hyping up the praises of the stock market and other aspects of the economy, and it just wasn't really what people were feeling on the ground. You know what I mean? It just, people were feeling something else, or at least the sentiment on the ground was something else. And then you're also recognizing that, when you say, how good the stock market's doing, you also have to talk about how there's about 7 or 8 different companies propping that up at this point in time, and how,
right.
A lot of Americans don't have use in the stock market. A lot have 401ks, yes, but if you look at the numbers, not mainstream people aren't sitting there looking at the stock market every single day, figuring out what their wealth is going to
Well,
be. I mean, they're worried about how to put food on
there
the
is a
table. Go ahead.
class of people that is relatively new over the last decade that absolutely does, especially post COVID. And that would be the Joe Rogan Manosphere crowd, because they're all using Robinhood or E-Trade. They all took their stimulus checks because they were still living at home by and large, and they put it in the stock market and they're letting it ride. And so they do pay a lot of attention to it. They're not day trading or watching it go up and down. They're just sitting there and biting their nails, but hoping it goes generally up. And if it is, they, in years past, people would look at somebody like Republicans would say the president doesn't have anything to do with the stock market. That's what business does. The president doesn't have anything to do with job numbers. That's people pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and going out and getting a job. But in reality, as soon as Trump gets in, they're like, yeah, Trump fixed the stock market and jobs are all him. Like, Biden fixes inflation after the worst spike in 60 years. No credit. The most stable job market, which it's still stuck at, basically. We still got those hires sitting, at 4.6 to 4.3. Biden brings it to that in the recovery period, just like Obama did after 2008, after Bush crashed it. So but they don't get credit for that. When they do it, when they do something bad or there's something people don't like, it's Biden did it, Obama did it, Kamala's going to do it. But when it's Trump, it's the federal government. The federal government is ruining everything.
Real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but do you think if I don't use the headphones, the sound would be better? Do you think
Probably.
you'll hear yourself back though?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe so. We can.
I know.
That's
I know.
okay.
If my father's texting me telling me my sound sucks, then I got a problem. You know what I mean?
That's
When
right.
your
Okay.
dad's
Well, I'm not going to interrupt. Yeah. No. Your dad's right. I'm not going to interrupt that at all. I don't hear you at all now. It'll take a second for it to rethink. It's going to have to, because it was using the mic on your headphones, what it was doing. I guarantee it. It'll probably be fine once you bring up the mic on there. But I'll get to this as well.
How's that? Any better?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Right.
It's much
as long
better.
as you don't hear yourself back, that's all.
I do not.
Want to make sure.
I do not. We're all good. So, you're right about the 7 companies propping this up, because Donald Trump's stock market is largely based on the fact that an entirely new industry of extraordinary girth and depth appeared on the scene in the middle of the Biden administration, right? About 2 years into the Biden administration, AI came online and started growing. And that growth is going to be relatively exponential until it sunsets in the next 3 to 5 years, because it's going to level off. And once there's this big realization you can do most of the AI stuff on your desktop computer now, instead of having to use a giant model that you have to subscribe to, which is happening faster and faster and faster. Look at the new computers NVIDIA's putting out. They're putting out the new Spark, which of course I'm suing, and then all the Apple devices with the M4 and higher are going to have local AI built into them that will do 90% plus of what you want to do and improve all the time. And you won't have to be on the internet. So why would you be paying these big companies to have these giant data centers? What are they going to be financing those data centers with? What's their return on investment on those data centers if they're no longer needed? That crash is the AI bubble people are thinking about. It's not going to end AI.
Like you were saying, though, I think there's always things that you could cherry pick from, what we call the greater economy. If you want to pull some sort of statistic to say that we're doing better now than we were 3 weeks ago or 2 months ago, like there's those statistics out there, I'm sure, that you could cherry pick. But, when you go out there and you ask people, hey, what do you feel about the economy? Do you feel that it's doing well?
Right.
Do you feel like it's hurting you right now? Are you having an easier time or a more difficult time living your life? I think the sentiment is going to be pretty consistent throughout the people that you're talking to
that's
right now. So
that's my point exactly, and I think that's what's driving the polls. Even if if you were to make an American, like put him on a plane, fly him to a bunch of different countries, countries in South America and Africa and in Asia, and certainly if they're not a billionaire in the Middle East, and they got to look around how the average person lives, they would, by contrast, feel, I'm doing okay compared to a a lot of other countries. But that's not the standard most people live in. And the cost of living versus what you're making is your reality. And what hurts more, your broken leg or my broken thumb? My broken thumb, because it's broken. And I don't think the Trump administration, I think the maddening frustration with why people don't like what he's doing, that they, when Trump's like, I'm the greatest ever, how dare you even ask? I think that's where that comes from, is that, I've been saying for a while, there was this pad between FA and FO, right? And rich people have a big pad between FA and FO. The average person has it's a tight squeeze. And whenever something like this happens, where gas prices and grocery prices go up, it not only gets narrower, but they can project out and go, if this keeps going this way, it's going to get worse, and my bills are going to stay the same. Right? And Trump's answer is like when that memo came out last year.
Yeah, he's got the rich guy answer, as opposed to, like you're just saying, when people in my shoes, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but living, not even paycheck to paycheck at this point, you know what I mean? It's like, as soon as you mess up financially, the ramifications are instant. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not next week or next month or next year. It's your next bill or your next meal or, putting gas in the tank. Like that's the issue right there. Whereas, Trump thinks that, I have enough money in the bank and I've managed to rob enough people in my second term where I can withstand this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, that's not how most people are living their life. That's not how most people are looking at going through their daily life. And it's just, that disconnect that you're talking about is, I think it's becoming more and more apparent to people. How it wasn't apparent before, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, he's clearly been like what a very poor person thinks a rich guy should be. Like, that's what Donald Trump acts like, if I'm right. You know what I'm saying? Like, he gold everything and
he's gilding the horses. Yeah.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. That there is another big part of this, that he's a nouveau riche moron. And, new money tends to want to show that stuff off. And he has the economic mentality of an Instagram influencer who rents a Lambo and takes pictures standing next to it, right? It's, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not. Like if it's shiny enough, people will shut up. They will assume the inside is as good as the outside. And that, look, I'm a big fan of beautification. My dad's an architect. I do believe in keeping our nation's monuments and our parks pristine, but I also think that should extend to and be prioritized along with our water and our air and the roads being traversable. And what it takes to traverse those roads in the name of whatever fuel is there, either gas or electric charging stations, that kind of stuff are available.
And not do it as a dictator. I mean, you could look back at so many different autocrats and dictators in the past that have done this exact thing. The monuments, trying to beautify the Capitol. So when dignitaries and people come visit your Capitol, they want it to be pristine. And not saying that's wrong, right? But like, they're doing it out of vanity. It's not doing it out of love for the country. You know what I mean? It's not doing it out of respect for democracy or what this country represents. It's because they're the leader, they're the face. This is what the people are going to see. And, they want to be Trump everything. I mean, look at Hitler. He had his grand visions of what he wanted, Germany to look like, and his hometown of Linz. Like, he wanted it to be the biggest and the best, and take all the art and all of the things from all of the other places in Europe and put it in this one museum. Like, it's the same. I can picture Donald Trump sitting around with Speer, going around these models and looking at, like, okay, what can we turn DC into next? He's got the arch. He's doing the the Lincoln Monument, and it's like the whole thing. It's crazy.
And on top of that, I think, like those guys, I think he envies Saddam Hussein and other people who had these giant pictures of himself, and he obviously hung his face on the side of that. Now, the question is, there are a couple of reasons why, like, I obviously plan on having some sort of a statue at some point in the future. It doesn't have to be, granite or, bronze or whatever. Just, I want to be one of those.
I'm sorry, but how long is it before it's a morning ritual before you have to clean off the Führer's face like they do in North Korea? Like you have to keep
Sure, yeah.
very clean.
Well, mine would be inside a state house, inside a building. So it would just have a well-worn toe like Lincoln's statue in the Frankfurt Capitol, because everybody touches his toe for good luck. So the whole statue is kind of brown, but the toe is gold because everybody rubs it. Yeah, that's what I want. I want just a statue of me with a gold toe, and everybody rubs for good luck like I'm a Buddha. But I'm not against the idea, but I would like that to happen well after I have passed away. A good long while has passed, and people realize, you know what? That guy did some great stuff, and we should remember what let's set up that not just as a monument to that guy, but as a statue that we can kind of meditate on. Like, I want to be like that guy, right? That's what they should be for. That's what they are in Buddhist temples. That's what they are in Hindu temples. That's what images of Christ are. It's not so like to glorify the being, but to remind you, like, hey, that guy's a tuning fork for how you should be as a human being. That's what a statue should be. But there's one other reason. We're going to take a break, and I want to talk about this on the other. One other reason why an old man might want a monument, like right away. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now with 100% more Boston Brian. All right.
See, I always thought that was a mausoleum, not a monument.
Well,
man wanted to have sex with me.
Look, there is a.
All right, I'm trying one more thing while we're on break. My apologies.
That sounds good.
I know, but I can make it sound better. I know I can. There's a reason I bought these. There's a reason I bought these mics, for crying out loud.
Ow. Yeah. No, that's right. And.
How's that? Any better?
Sounds good. I don't know. You've stopped talking, so.
As long as it doesn't sound bad, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, it sounds good. That sounds much better. It does. Excellent. All right. Big round of applause in the chat room for Boston Brian solving his tech issues 3/4 of the way into the show.
I feel like you're lying to me. I feel like you're lying to me.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Chat room, tell him. He sounds way better. Yes? How dare you? How dare you, sir? If I'm going to lie to you about something, it's going to be something good.
I only say that because I can see the microphone thing hooked up to my phone, and it doesn't say that any microphones are hooked up.
Well, like I said, the mic on the phone is pretty good. So, you're putting your little you're doing your little.
Yeah, I have a real microphone, and it should work really good. That's the point.
Well, good.
Doesn't seem to want to. But what are you
doesn't seem. Well, they're persnickety.
You can't win them all, Hal. You can't win them all.
Those electronic devices.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So there are a lot of reasons why someone might want a monument to themselves. If there's somebody like me, clearly just ego. Just the, and quite frankly, I think it would be a lot of pressure if there was a statue, because you'd have to live up to it. You don't want them to take it down while you're still alive, you don't want to have that Rocky moment where you ride up the steps on your motorcycle and throw your helmet at the darn thing because you've got to live up to this version of yourself. Rocky 3 is a great movie. But, right? But Trump, one of his things is he's getting his name squeegeed off the Kennedy Center. One of the reasons why he's trying to get his arc done or just do little, like gilding the horses and all that kind of stuff is because he wants maggots to have something to remember him by. That really is what's going on. There is no question. Nobody who has 4 cognitive tests and thinks there were 3, because we've been counting and he hasn't, and has 22 doctors at his last medical checkup. 22.
That's because 21 of them passed out from the smell.
That's right. Yeah, they all had to rotate in and out. It was like working with nuclear waste. You know, they had to limit their exposure to the toxins.
There was never more than one at a time actually around him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with his diet and the drugs he consumed over his life, he probably farts asbestos. So that's it. But in all honesty, increasingly not a healthy dude. The window is closing, and I do think, as much as he pretends he doesn't care, and to some degree on a sociopathic level, he does not care about the impact, of on the average person. But he can't feel shame, but he can feel embarrassment. He does care about perception, people perceiving him, and if he looks like a loser and a dope, and he said, I'm sure you saw this. He said recently he took that the first cognitive test of last year or whatever, 2025, the first one of the 3 he's had. He took that one because people had been calling him a genius dictator, and they started calling him an idiot. So he asked the doctor if he should take a cognitive. First of all, it's the mocha. It's not, it's to check and see if you can go back and play hockey later in the evening. It's not an IQ test. It's the insurance people in the NFL covering their butts is what that is.
CTE?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lion, rhino, bumpy horse. Get back in the booth.
But I mean, doesn't that? I mean, it just reminded me of the way that the White House presented whatever plans leaked yesterday. Like, we were comparing and contrasting them on the show, and it's like, if you look at what was leaked by the Iranians, like, love or hate, whatever you think about what was asked for or what was said, like, it had specific times, specific dates, specific deadlines, specific prices, specific amounts of money. It seemed well written. It seemed well thought out. And then if you go to what the White House put out, it was like, destroy uranium. Like, we're gonna be open and straight.
Right.
They gave 4 bullet points, and not what they sounded like somebody, like a 4-year-old with a red crayon.
Basically it's what he said. It's what he's been saying, in the meetings. Like, whatever he says is in it, that's what's in it. But it's not what. Oh, terrible. Yeah, hold on. I'll shut this down. Hold on one second. I think should be better now, hopefully. Nope. I know what I'll do. Hold on. We have to do this. We have to switch to another screen, and then we come back. And it usually remedies it. It's very weird. Yeah. So, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the Iranians have apparently been using psychologists to work on how they talk to Trump. That they brought in there's a report in that Iran has been using psychologists because they believe he is legitimately mentally ill, and so in an effort to negotiate in a way that will appeal to him, they are using a team of psychologists to like walk through, like, okay, how's our wording on this? Because clearly he's bonkers.
So a team of doctors giving him the Macron handshake, as you call it?
Absolutely.
Trying to get through to him a little bit?
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, this is, I guess Jeremy Scahill mentioned this, but this has been around for a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, the Iranian side added senior psychologists to their negotiating team to review communications that they were going to be sending to the mediators to give to Trump. They did it because the Iranians believe that Trump is legitimately mentally ill and is operating in an impaired mental state. They didn't say this is a joke, and they didn't say this with any lightness. They meant it. They know they're dealing with a lunatic, and they're like, bring in some people who speak lunatic.
Speak crazy.
Yeah.
Anybody who speaks this guy's language.
Yeah. This is, I'm sorry, you got garbly on us again. It may be just one of those things where we'll hang you up and have you call back in. Try that, but I'm so worried about losing. Yeah, do that real quick.
I'll call you right back.
Yeah, pull right back in, and I'll talk to the chat room for a second. But this is a clear issue that anybody who talks to Trump to accomplish anything has to deal with. They are talking to a person who is not all there. There is, and I don't know at what point any of them I don't think they're wrong for doing it, but I also don't know any more than we know who we're talking to on this side. Let me boil it down this way, because it's so insane. If Trump doesn't know who he's negotiating with, or if indeed the people he's negotiating with can even enforce or go through with a deal because the IRGC or the Ayatollah may not sign off on it, or there may be big divisions amongst themselves to do it. So even if they sign it, the IRGC, that's broken into several segments, might just continue to attack the Strait of Hormuz because they're operating on a dead man switch or like a wind-up toy. If we don't know who we're talking to, and then they're thinking we're talking to a lunatic who tore up the last deal we had, right? How in the world can anybody say that a deal exists in any way? And the other part of it is, beyond the fact that they keep saying deal, and this really bugs me. They keep using the phrase deal over and over and over again. And it's a memorandum of understanding that they can't even sign. And if they do, it still means that it's a ceasefire extension for 60 days while they argue over the points. And if it's anything like the ceasefire we've had, it's war. So I don't know why anybody in the market or anywhere else is actually taking any of this garbage seriously. And it's the single most frustrating aspect of this that as I'm watching this, because I love details. You guys know this. I love breaking stuff apart. How I ended up on Stephanie Miller's show was that I'd read the ACA and I knew what was in it, and I wanted to talk, deep into the reads about it. There he is. Boston Brian's back.
Mic check, mic check, mic check.
It's very good, but there's a little bit of feedback, but that's okay. It'll be all right. Don't worry, just talk. We're fine. So the point I was trying to make is that, and I don't know if you heard that little exchange, and in the last couple of minutes before we take a break, and Phil will be joining us, if Trump doesn't know that the people that we are negotiating with are actually the people in charge, and if the people, that they're dealing with, the IRGC and the Ayatollah and the clerics are differing with the political leaders, how do we know that they're negotiating anything real? Or even if they think they are, how do they enforce it? If the IRGC is broken up into 9 segments now, and is basically, there's 9 Terminators where there used to be one Skynet, and they're all on a mission to just do what they were told, like it's the end times, which is the reality over there right now. If we're dealing that way, and then they're going, we're talking to a lunatic, and we don't even know if he understands what we're saying, much less if he's going to keep a deal, if he could even make one, because he tore up the last one. How in the hell is that a deal? How is a deal even on the table? I almost swore. And on top of that,
they're not even considering it a deal, right? It's that whole
it's a memorandum of understanding.
So it's like a pre-setting to a maybe to an almost kind of deal that may be somewhere down the road.
And the stock market and the oil markets are moving based on this giant maybe. And there's 30 more days of the strait being closed, no matter what.
Right, you're right. That's what I was saying. Like, people didn't recognize that because it wasn't said in the White House releases. Like, they kept it to as brief as possible. You know what I mean? But like I said, if you go to the Iranians, what they allegedly leaked, it's very specific. It's very detailed. It gave, from the time of whatever deal is signed or whatever memorandum of understanding is signed, it'll be 30 days till this happens or 60 days till this happens. Like, they were it was concise, right? And whether or not you agree with what they're asking for or want to see them get that, I think is irrelevant to looking at, like, the two sides. And like you said, how militarily ridiculous is it to take out so many leaders that you don't have enough leadership in place to actually get a deal or the infrastructure of a deal because of the amount of leaders that you've taken out.
And in the cuckoo Pez dispenser that is Iranian leadership, the first 4 are the good ones in theory because they've been sane for a while. But they put hardliners in place in the same way that Hegseth's bloodlust makes Trump's look pedestrian. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Boston Brian is with us and sounding fabulous, by the way. If I do say so my damn self. And Philip Ittner will be joining us from Ukraine. And the White House has also given a June deadline for Iran and Ukraine to stop fighting. Again, it's absurd. We'll be back.
When facts matter,
yeah. The amount of dumb. Dude, I can't tell you. I was so I missed doing a show yesterday because I was doing, I was singing. And that Tulsi Gabbard nonsense came out about the biolabs in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Where they work on wheat blight and avian flu because chickens and wheat,
Right. And you can tell the way that people are reporting on it because I don't know if it comes from her specific statement or not, but they're also putting at the end, including Ukraine, in case it wasn't scary enough, in case you didn't get the point enough, they have to add ... including Ukraine. It's
right.
We get the point. Did Candace Owens bring this talking point back home from St. Pete, or
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just delivered it right to and by the way,
this
Tulsi
is what they want you to talk about this week there, Tulsi.
And Tulsi recorded this before she left?
I guess the whole thing seems strange and odd to me, the last little nugget of Kremlin propaganda she wants to leave on everybody's doorstep, apparently.
Right. Hold on, I've got it right. Phil needs the new link as well, just as a heads up. So there we go. Crazy.
This will be the first time I'm seeing Phil in a while.
I know.
How's everything with you behind the scenes? Everything all right?
Summer's got 2 weeks and change of radiation, 5 days a week, and it starts to really suck this week. And I've got to go out of town for my dad's service, which is Thursday. So, but Ethan's here, her son's here, and she's fine. But I don't like that I have to go away.
Send my love, send my best, please.
I will. We had this whole thing. Let me show you. This is so nuts. Hold on. Yeah, I'll go to here. Nope, I don't want Google Maps, you silly thing. Where you didn't know you need Mepitol film until you do. So most people don't. Let's go. Mepitel. Sorry. There is a company called Monolink that makes this stuff called Mepitol film, and it is. Let's see what's this one. Yeah, I'll try to find a picture of it so people know what I'm talking about. But it's usually for wound care, and you put it on. If you get you got a burn or something and you're healing something, you can put this stuff over it, and it's like those Band-Aids that just stay on your arm and protect it, right? Okay, here's Phil.
Like Neosporin type stuff?
Well, no, it's just protects it from the elements.
Well, I got
so,
you.
Yeah.
Facts matter.
So, there you go. There's
Damien
Phil.
Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
And joining us right now with our dear friend Boston Brian is, of course, Philip Ittner, who's joining us from Kyiv right now. Running right in. I was just telling a little inside baseball, Phil, about how we in this household didn't know we needed a Canadian medical product until we did, and it's not available in the States, and it gets hung up in customs, so we're running out during the middle of summer's radiation, and it's the stupidest thing that any of this would get hung up in customs or whatever, like it's some sort of medical, like all this medical fraud that they're looking into is slowing everything down, and this is one of the big reasons. It's never easy. There are whole chat rooms online. Sorry to gripe about this right out of the gate on the first part of this, but there are whole chat rooms online. Summer's part of one of them, of women specifically going through breast cancer treatment to get this stuff, this Mepitol film that you basically, this big sheets of stuff, and you put it over your skin so that your skin doesn't get cooked by the radiation, so you don't get second, third degree burns from it. It helps, and it's not available in the States. It's available in Canada, and when you order it, it just takes forever. And luckily, my beloved second cousin Jason is going to art school in Vancouver, and bought some for us and drove it across the border into Washington and mailed it to us on Friday. So it'll be here hopefully Monday or Tuesday, just in time for when
it's a good indication of where we are, though. Like, you gotta smuggle in these life-saving drugs now.
Hey, wait a minute, Boston Brian, but are you saying gilded horses aren't enough for you, mister?
No, you want
proper wound dressing as well?
The bright gold plating on everything in the White House goes to really make Donald Trump happy. I don't think it serves the rest of us any purpose.
How dare you? Okay. Meanwhile, though, Phil, welcome. Good to see you. Let's start off with how are you doing, and how's things in Kyiv right now? What's the rumpus?
Well, just here's what it is. Another day in paradise.
Right.
And you're always aware that you could be killed in your sleep, and I could be dead by this time tomorrow. So
right.
Like thousands and thousands of other Ukrainians. So always a pleasure.
So a couple of things, obviously, that we will talk about. One is that Trump is allegedly they keep saying the U.S. Trump and Hegseth supposedly have given Russia and Ukraine a June deadline to work this out. Mainly, I think, so Trump can brag that he ended another war or something, or he finally did it in the world's longest single phone call.
It's also strangely, and Phil, you can take it from here, but it's also strangely as the Ukrainians are starting to see more and more success, especially in southern Ukraine and around Crimea. So I don't know if that's kind of odd timing or not, but something to speculate on.
It makes total sense. Yeah. Anytime they start to make headway. Yeah. Right, I agree. It's absurd. But that pressure is meant to be real. I think they're I think they're overestimating their power in this situation, especially Trump. Obviously, he's always done that because he thought he could do it in one phone call. I don't know if he believed that actually, or if he'd been just told by Putin that he was like, "Yeah, I'm totally going to stop as soon as you get in. Don't worry about it, buddy, and you'll look like a king." And then he just didn't because he never was going to. But even still, I don't think they have any leverage in this situation. Right now, the Ukrainians are outproducing Russian drones, by almost double. It's like it's 1.5, 1.7. They make a drone and a half or a drone and a third. Yeah, for every drone Russia makes. And theirs are much more effective, and they're hitting the drone factories, and they're in Russia. I don't. Well, I'd love to hear like both of you. I know, and I'm very grateful to have both of you on because Brian, I know you cover Ukraine regularly on your live stream as well, and you guarantee a certain amount of time to it. And so, my big question for both of you, especially leading into this block at the end of this block, is what's a story that's happening there that's not getting enough attention that needs attention, that both of you are seeing? I'll start with you, Brian, and then we'll go to Phil.
I mean, I would just say, the thing is, it's been a couple months now that the Ukrainians have been hammering away at that, the land bridge down there. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of the Russians counter management, so to speak, or them trying to send in more, anti-drone teams down there. So I think we'll start seeing a little bit of them try to push back a little bit at that success. I mean, I played a clip yesterday on the show of a Russian fuel truck that was dressed up or made to look like just a civilian, any farm vehicle or any industrial truck, and it was just like wood paneling around it. But you could tell it was shoddily done, and you could definitely tell there was a fuel tank underneath it. But I think they'll start to see a little bit of pushback there. But that's kind of what this war is, what war in general is. It's we try to advance technologically, and then you try to find a way to combat that, and then we try to advance and build off of that type of thing. So without thinking too deeply into it, that's one thing I think you're likely to see. I don't know if that's a story that needs covering. But.
Right. Well, and then Phil, if you would, what's been standing out to you, in sort of the international conversation about it? Obviously, the lack of coverage it's hard to tell whether it benefits or harms Ukraine at this point, because Trump only pays attention to the news. So that most of the time when he starts getting awful towards Zelensky or Ukraine is when it comes back, it shows up on Fox News, and it's almost better if it's out of the picture temporarily. But yeah.
Brian's right. We have the land bridge is increasingly becoming unusable by Russia, which means they're not getting the supplies that they need militarily, and also to maintain the population. They're having gas shortages and long lines at the gas station in Crimea. It also means that they won't be nearly as effective in being able to shoot at us from Crimea, which is a good thing. There's Konstantinovka, which is a kind of a city adjacent to the fortress cities that divide Donbass from the rest of Ukraine. And, there's concern that if they can take those cities, that they'll kind of have an open road to Kiev. I don't think that's accurate. And also it presumes that they can take those cities, which I don't think they can do.
Right.
And then there's the one other story that has got my ears pricked up and isn't being talked about, is the fact that the head of the central bank in Russia has disappeared.
Right.
She's not making any. Yeah, Elvira Nabiullina. She's not been making any public appearances. She either didn't go entirely, or she had a very limited appearance at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, which of course is completely.
I don't think she showed it all.
Yeah, I don't think she did show it all. There was some talk that she had been at some sort of opening meeting or something, but she didn't do anything in public. But of course, these are the Russians, so who knows what's truth. But regardless, she's certainly not making any major public announcements, or she's very much shied away from being in front of the camera or appearing at something public. So that has a lot of people concerned, because Russia's economy is it's at a straining point. So I think those are probably the three biggest ones that pop to mind. I mean, for us here in Kiev, we're being told directly by the authorities, both municipal and federal, that we can expect a major attack either tonight or tomorrow night. We haven't had a major attack in a few days, and also apparently they have intelligence that the Russians are preparing some sort of major attack on Kiev. So we expect to probably come under heavy, cruise missile attack, drone attack, either tonight or tomorrow night. Don't think they will send another hypersonic missile at us. I don't think they'll do that. But we're gonna get probably a fair few cruise missiles, and they've been probing for the last couple of days with no major attacks, and that's I think what led. I think it was Budanov, the head of intelligence, and also now chief of staff, who warned the citizens of Kiev, expect that you're going to need to take shelter in the next 48 hours.
This and by the way, this seems increasingly desperate on the Russian front, but they're hitting these things to kind of like do almost a shock and awe aspect of it, I suppose, but drag it out or like wear people down emotionally.
Yeah, there's no military reason for it. It's terrorism.
Right. Yeah.
And if there is a peripheral advantage that could be legitimized, it's the propaganda war. But you're killing people for stealing, in order to gain control of the narrative, which is, we Russians are an inevitability, and we're able to bomb you and kill you no matter what. It's certainly counterproductive domestically within Ukraine, because every time it happens, it only makes the Ukrainians angrier and want to resist more. So, it could be he's trying to signal third party members who are, looking at stuff that, this is an unwinnable war for the West. And again, Russia's an inevitability. They rely on this narrative, pretty profoundly. They push this thing that, whether, no matter what, eventually, we're going to win because Russia is, like a force of nature. It's this, it's unstoppable. And that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. Ukrainians, cost them over 1.4. Well, they're heading towards 1.4 million casualties. Approximately, if you believe the Ukrainian side, 65% of that is killed, as opposed to 35% wounded, which is not really the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Casualty figures, the number should be larger for wounded than killed.
Yeah.
But the Russians, Russian tactics are just to throw and kill people at positions. But the Russians, Russian tactics are just to throw and kill people.
Whoops, sorry, loop. My fault. Yeah, go ahead. The that tactic might work. Do you think it's working internally in Russia? Do you think they're buying it?
I mean, there's two problems with internal. Well, there are several problems, but two primary problems with Russia getting a grasp on what's happening domestically in Russia is that one, information is strictly controlled. Most Russians get their news from traditional sources. The internet is blocked in large way, in large sectors. So they're not receiving. They get told the narrative that Moscow wants to tell them. So but it's increasingly becoming unavoidable. You can't ignore the fact that the missiles and drones, Ukrainian missiles and drones, are striking deep within Russia. I mean, there's a number of oil depots and facilities and things like that have been shot that are thousands of kilometers away from Ukraine. So that might be affecting Russian morale. But the other thing, or public opinion. But the other thing is they're not. They are still hell bent on fighting this war. The Russians are, because it's existential to them. It's their, without Ukraine, they're not an empire, and imperial power is more important than people to the Russians. So, and the Russian population itself, that's not forced upon them. That is their culture. I blame the Orthodox Church more than anything else, but that's going back centuries. That they made the Tsar into kind of a god king, and so.
That's what the church, that's what the C of E was trying to do when divorce was out of the question, and the king had wives to behead. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back right after this. I have a poll going in the chat, and I'm putting one in Twitch as well, on what Trump's biggest lie is, and the reason that was inspired was because the first option in on the Twitch one is the Ukraine war in one phone call. People forget that clock's been ticking this whole time. We'll be back.
What happens?
What was that sultry voice? What happened?
Let's see. What should be some questions? Ukraine war in one phone call. Melania actually likes him. His height and weight. And what's it? I know. Gas inflation will come down like a rocket, right?
PT 820.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
There are so many things. You spent some time dealing with the Middle East, Phil, and there are so many parallels in what's going on between Russia, Ukraine, and us and Iran. And they're almost flip-flopped. And the biggest, I think, issue is that we've seen with Russia where they have Trump used this phrase "tapping us along" a while back about, he got mad at Putin at one point, and this was people took this as like him finally getting a spine, but a lot of other people were like, this is a sign that he's sundowning for real because he couldn't not get mad, and he used to be able to hold that back because he's got to remember that he owes that dude a lot of money. And he, he's fairly convinced the guy could do him some damage. He probably has a copy of the Epstein files in, the complete files. So, but the same thing, with the Iranians probably feel that towards Trump in this. And we've got this bit with the Iranians are like looking for this ceasefire largely so they can rearm. Trump used the ceasefire so that we could reload the ships. And like, it was literally, it turns out they hit the Gerald Ford much worse than they said. 600 bunks in the barracks area were burned up. They said only a couple of people were injured. That was a lie. There was a lot more damage, and now you have to walk the almost length of the ship to go to a functioning bathroom because of the damage that was done. They had to take it to Greece to repair it, like a multi-billion-dollar boat, right? And they had to take this aircraft carrier down there. To get ready to fight again, which is the idea. And the same thing with the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have been dealing with this with Russia the entire time, that every ceasefire or every temporary ceasefire, even the one around like Russia Day or what have you, was a farce. It was just so they're like, time out, limb in the road. Like, it was like, they're playing kickball, right. Cock coming.
Yep.
So
so they do that all the time. Mm-hmm. That's they did it their big May Day parade, which they jumped and hollered and screamed and warned, don't you dare attack us on May Day, on Victory Day on May 8th. And the Ukrainians kind of used that as a propaganda tool and said, we give you permission to have your parade, which was kind of fun. But then the second that the holiday had passed, Victory Day, that's when they started, absolutely shellacking us. And, that they do that. That's right. One of their tactics.
But the idea is that everybody seems to be wise to that now. Like, I'm increasingly amazed that the stock market falls for Trump's nonsense about the Iran memorandum of understanding being a deal that, did you notice this week that it went from 90% there, I think we're 95% there, to 75%? A very curious, when you got 10 points, I guess, and a full quarter of them are non-starters. That's not a deal.
And the Iranians know midterms are coming too. Like he says they're tapping them along. They also know they have that coming where, even if Donald Trump doesn't care, maybe he's not, maybe he's reckless enough, he doesn't care what the hell takes place. But, there are still politicians surrounding him that do want to stay within proximity of power. They do want to stay either in their House seat or their Senate seat or whatever it may be in their little gig that they got going on. But, there is some pressure that is inevitably going to have to be placed upon him the closer we get into this midterm cycle, and Iran knows that. And again, add that up, just one more thing, add that up with the U.S. intelligence assessment coming out and saying, well, guess what? Looks like with Iran has the ability to withstand this blockade a lot longer than we originally anticipated, right? Whether it's 120 days or longer, it seems to be they could withstand it longer than the United States could withstand the pressure of the Strait of Hormuz being closed to a certain extent. You know what I mean? So they got that going for them as well.
Yeah, and that pressure goes to, not just us, but not just allies, because he may not give a crap about Europe right now because he's all mad that they're not helping him with his war of choice. But this is difficult for China and the Middle East, and these are his new business partners. This is what like everything they accused Hunter Biden of doing in China, the Trump boys are doing there right now. And, Eric flew over on Air Force One, the whole deal for this big meeting. Everything that they, wagged a finger at Hunter Biden for being there.
They just had one about the Ambanis, with the richest guy, one of the richest guys in India there. His son apparently was getting, or his company was getting targeted by Trump's tariffs. Just so happened that $100 million decided to make its way into a Don Jr. backed company. And next thing you know, not only are the tariffs not targeting their family's company anymore, but next thing you know, they're doing business and getting deals and, profiting and enriching themselves off of this because of, what the back payment, let's just say.
Right. Well, and everything's a projection. We know this. Every accusation, they're just projecting what they're planning on doing, and almost so they can, everybody does it. At this point, they're not even hiding it. They're doing it like it's not like Hunter Biden did it and it was wrong. It's like Hunter Biden did it, so we get to too. In the same way that he's like with Obama, Obama ruled like a dictator. He forced the ACA down our throat. So if Trump wants to force a bunch of stuff down your throat, he's allowed. So the question is that his admiration, Philip Bittner, sir, is his admiration for Putin because of that belief that that's how Putin runs things. And that if Donald Trump wanted to do meat waves in Iran, he should be allowed to do it. You join the army, you're supposed to die doing it. You signed up for it, dummy. That's why I wouldn't let my kids do it. It's why I didn't do it, right? It's why, he had, Captain Bone Spurs. Yeah, suckers and losers, exactly.
Yeah, no, the U.S. military won't do that, though.
Yeah.
They'll tell them to go take a flying leap. So, as somebody who covered the round after round after round of talks and the shuttle diplomacy that was going on in Geneva during the formulation of the JCPOA, there is no way that whatever he negotiates, if he negotiates something, that it's going to be better than what Obama got with the JCPOA. No. It's just not. And I'll tell you why, because I'm trying to remember what year that was. I want to say it was 2000 and what was it? 15 maybe?
Well, the whole deal
16?
Was something like 3 years in the making, right, Phil? Wasn't it? It
was
a really long, drawn out process.
Really extremely
hundreds of people involved. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely dragged out process. And, I was there for it. And so they set up shop in the Intercontinental Hotel. All the talks were being held in the Intercontinental Hotel in Geneva. And in the Intercon, they have, it's not just a business center. It's not like your Holiday Inn business center where you go in and there's a bay of computers and a printer, a networked printer. The Intercon, because it's Geneva and it's Switzerland, the Intercon is built for negotiations. And so they have meeting room, the whole mezzanine level and the second level, they're all conference rooms. It's more like a conference center in some ways than it is a hotel. And there were, I hesitate to hazard a guess, but I'm betting there were at least 10 individual working groups that would focus on one particular issue. Like, okay, you can enrich to this level. You can have this many centrifuges going. You can. We're going to have inspections. These are the people that are going to do it, and they're going to do it. With this criteria that either they'll do a regular check, but a spot inspection is always possible, and all of these different working groups were happening at the same time. Much less what was happening on the ground floor, which is where the actual foreign ministers were meeting.
Right.
And it was laborious, and it was boring, and it was just talking and talking and talking down to the finest details. And that's the only way we got away with that agreement, and it was working. It was a huge success.
Right.
And so I can't see them getting a better deal than what we had previous to this war. It's just been an absolute.
Yeah, one of the primary reasons why it worked, and we got to take a break, but one of the the biggest move around the JCPOA was getting the buy-in from Russia, not just that they were not helping Iran, but that they were kind of elbowing them a little bit. And they're trying to do that a little bit with China.
It's their reactor. They're the ones that built the reactor, and they have proprietary control over the fuel rods. Right. So nothing was going to happen unless Russia was involved. And it's the same way now.
Right. Well, let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. Phil has a show called On the Edge. You should subscribe to it at his channel. We'll be back right after this.
See everybody talking about the Baltics. Don't worry about the Baltics. They're not going to attack the Baltics.
Yeah.
They're not going to attack anybody.
People are all up in arms in my chat the other night asking me about Finland. What's going on there? Where's the Russian? Where's the Ruskies on the border?
They're not going to do any of that. They don't have the capacity, and they know it. And plus, the fact they'd cede the ground first.
They'd have. From what I saw, St. Petersburg is closer to Finland. Oops, sorry, Phil. Go ahead, bud.
Oh yeah. No, I used to have a buddy of mine when I lived in Russia, and his parents would almost like every month or every other month. It's only like a 3-hour drive. You cross the border. They would do these trips where they'd go to St. Petersburg. They'd buy up Western cigarettes and booze, and then they'd come back. So like every 6 weeks, they'd go stock up on smokes and booze.
Play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So we were just talking about, the concern in the chat about the Baltics and this expansion, which I think is more kind of, again, using Matt as an umbrella under which they can just threaten anybody and scare everybody into it. And the rubber knees like Tucker Carlson, or the faux rubber knees, because I think he's actually, this is a choice. I don't think he really fears that Russia's going to nuke everybody if we keep messing with them. That idiocy. I think ultimately he's doing it because they want him to say that, because that's part of the message. If you're afraid, they're going to nuke everybody, anything short of nuking anybody, they can get away with.
Yeah. I'm just looking up the other thing. I see all this talk about in the chat about Iranian involvement in Iran's nuclear program. We did an interview a while ago, and I'm just scrolling through our library of episodes. We did an episode with a guy who is an expert on nukes and nuclear energy, and we don't understand how much Russia actually uses their nuclear energy program as a leverage point internationally. And it's episode 60 with Konstantin Batovsky of On the Edge. And he went into great detail, and I'd have to refresh some of my memory about, but I do recall is that you have to understand when they set up a nuclear program, and then people are pointing out, there's a lot of talk about, Russians are involved with Iran. Well, of course they are, because anywhere they build a nuclear plant, they loan the fuel rods to the client state with the understanding that eventually when they are to be decommissioned, that they're returned to Russia at fee so that Russia can bury them and dispose of them. And they use that as leverage, political leverage, in all the countries where they build nuclear power plants, and there are lots of them. So, that's we have to take that into consideration when we look at Iran's nuclear power program. And I don't know where they are, and I don't think anybody knows exactly where they are with what they were able to get out before the airstrikes happened. But I am sure that they have some centrifuges, and I am sure that they have some, uranium rods stowed away somewhere.
Right.
And then
originally the word was it's 7 sites. It's 7 sites. and we hit 3. I mean, never mind the fact that Trump thinks, that in his cognitive test that that's not a camel, that's a bumpy horse. He can't count either. And the way he hides behind the bombers and like, you can't attack our pilots. Like, you gave them the targets, dummy. They only hit what you send them to hit. So it's none of this is their fault. If they hit the wrong thing, it's not their fault. You gave them the target. You are responsible. That's what the president is. And this is, I want to show you this real quick, if I could. Sorry, we bring Bill into this part of it. But this is the U.S. gave Ukraine and Russia June deadline to reach a peace agreement, which, at this point, I'm like, else? Yeah, exactly. Like, whatever. He goes, if the June deadline is not met, the Trump administration will likely put pressure on both sides to meet it. Yawn. What are you talking about?
Well, didn't the House just pass for the first time in roughly 2 years the first aid package to Ukraine?
Yeah, $9 billion.
Weren't we just looking at Hungary now releasing a substantial portion of the funds that were being held up by their Russophile leader that they had just gotten rid of? So I don't see where where he's going to get the, I don't know, what leverage he thinks he has. And I was going to ask you guys both, I've seen a dramatic shift, or at least from Donald Trump, of not speaking about Vladimir Putin, not speaking about Russia, really not mentioning Ukraine unless he's kind of asked about it. What do you think? He's recognizing finally that he has no ability to do anything over there, or is he recognizing that maybe Putin lied to him? Or is it just the whole Iran thing kind of taking up most of his whatever brain cells are left kicking around that brain bucket?
Yeah, the statement here, this is Zelensky talking about that they told him this, and then there was an embargo on it. The idea is, I guess they told Putin the same thing, or maybe they didn't. Who cares? It's not a thing any more than the Iran deal. But he goes, the Americans are proposing the parties end the war by the beginning of this summer and will probably put pressure on the parties precisely according to this schedule, Zelensky said, speaking to reporters on Friday. Zelensky's comments were embargoed until Saturday morning because Trump thought he was going to be J.D. Vance going to be flying to Switzerland to sign this memorandum of understanding, which is absolutely nothing. And he goes, and they say they want to do everything by June, and they will do everything to end the war, and they want a clear schedule of all events. Like it's his social calendar, like it's Trump's social calendar. Like, we need all this up. We got midterms coming up. None of this can be around. We have to close this all down by then, because if any of this is still boiling around, it's going to be an egg on our face.
I wonder if Trump got a copy of Zelensky's letter that he sent to Putin.
Right.
Well, here's another bitter pill for MAGA and the Trumpists to swallow, and for Trump and Hegseth and Rubio to swallow. Mm-hmm. And it is a bitter pill. And we're increasingly becoming inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
The Ukrainians, the attitude here in Ukraine is, we want your help. We'd love to have your help. In fact, we really would like your help because we could win, if you really got behind us. But if you're not going to do that, then so be it. We'll go our own way.
Buzz off.
And we're getting tons of supplies from the Europeans now. We're getting European domestic weapery.
They're becoming the supplier.
Not least
the Ukrainians are.
I was getting to that. Yeah. Firstly, the Swedes are giving them the Gripen, which is in many ways actually a far more appropriate aircraft for this fight than the F-16 is. The Gripen is a multi-use fighter that can carry a wide range of different munitions, including nukes, and it can take off from a highway as opposed to an airfield. Right. And in addition to that, they're increasingly developing their own domestic production. Some numbers, and I don't know if it's this high in reality, but we've been hearing for quite some time that they are at they're well over the 60% mark when it comes to producing internally, domestically within Ukraine, or within factories in Europe owned by Ukraine where they're safe, about 60 to 80% of what they need to continue this war. So they don't really, America is increasingly, because of this idiocy and the obstinacy of the Trump administration, all they're doing is losing a client state. We could have sold them a lot of weaponry. If you're only looking at it transactionally, we could have sold them a lot of weaponry. And then finally, the only thing that there are two things they really, really need from the Yanks. And that's intel, satellite imagery, and things like that, things that they don't have the capacity to do themselves, and air defense, and in particular, Patriot missiles. Now, it's not the only thing that they're kind of reliant on America for, but they're increasingly replacing them. And they've already said that they've found they've developed domestically within Ukraine a replacement for the Patriot. It's the FP7. And not only is it a Patriot missile system analog that can take out air defense, so cruise missiles and things like that, to protect our Ukrainian cities, but it also can be used in an offensive capability, which is something the Patriot really can't do in any efficient way either. So not only are they making American military kit, almost irrelevant. Now, again, I want to stress, not completely, and they're still very much keen to get help. But if America really does walk away, Ukraine will continue to fight this war on their own. And what does that say about us?
Well, again, I think it says very little about us. I think it says entirely everything about the Republican Party in this administration, because they're controlling this situation by abdicating the purse strings in Congress. And going against the will of the people, who, again, statistically speaking, they're always talking about how popular voter ID is and all that kind of stuff, and why they should get that, and we'll have that conversation. But so is support for Ukraine. It's popular, even amongst Republicans, and that's ultimately why a lot of the help that he does, that Trump gives to Ukraine, or allows Congress to do it, he does under the table. Even the $9 billion package, for example, that is directly giving stuff to them. It's also allowing for the sale of a bunch of other stuff too, because you have to allocate that. You have to go, the Congress has to agree that this stuff can be sold, and my guess is it's gonna, it'll pass the Senate, and then he'll just either sign it, and there won't be one of these big, holding up his diaper because he made a boom signings that he has, surrounded by a bunch of sycophants and dim bulbs, that it'll be one of those he does just in the office and says it doesn't exist. The Iran deal has a release of, according to reports, about $24 billion of money to Iran, but it's got to be off the books. It's got, basically, it'll go to Qatar or it'll go to somebody else, and they'll give it to them. We won't.
That's why J.D. Vance said cash in his little Twitter post.
That's right.
He was trying to be very careful with his strategic wording that he posted the other day, when he saw a lot of Republicans and people on the conservative side popping off at the mouth because they saw what deal was being leaked by the Iranians, and it was Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham. There was a whole list of them. Hey, if this is actually what we're going to be signing on to, it
this
ain't
is
good.
Terrible, right?
Because there was something like almost $400 billion. It was 24 in frozen assets. 300 billion, I think, in damages. They want to see money repaid because of the damages occurred in the bombing between Israel and obviously the United States. We're talking about substantially, exponentially more than anything that was given to them or sent to them throughout the JCPOA. You know what I mean? And they utilize that as a talking point on the right, while the 1.7 or 1.8 billion, not understanding what the actual money came from or why it was that price or anything. So.
And never mind the $6 billion for the hostages that never left the bank. That was money in a South Korean bank from Iranian oil sales that happened under Trump. He got caught because he was doing it under the table. He was trying to keep gas prices low. And one of the ways he was doing it was allowing Iran to sell oil under the table to a bunch of places because it increases supply. It's the same thing he's doing right now with his world sneaking boats through. Well, those boats aren't going to the regular market. They're going to China and India and increasing the volume of supply to keep oil prices low, but they're still benefiting Iran. There's a bunch of Iranian oil boats in those. They're just circling around the outside. So anyways, there's this $24 billion that he's apparently, that we're going to bank shot it into them so that we can pretend we didn't give them anything. But it's the same. It's the same as happened to that $6 billion, which, by the way, is still sitting in a South Korean bank because that money was never transferred because Joe Biden rope-a-doped them. He suckered them. He said, "Give us the hostages, we'll give you the money." They gave us the hostages, and he went, "Nah. Well, if you want that money, you're going to talk about restarting the Iran deal." That's what that was. It's like, you're not getting $6 billion for people. You should just give them to us. So now that we have our people back, let's talk about what you would do for that $6 billion. That's what they were doing. Right. And that's what Trump was afraid of. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, with Philip Bittner and Boston Brian. What a day.
Amy Goodman.
Yeah. So
and as far as that timeline that you were just talking about, Hal, obviously it's ridiculous on its face, but there's no way Ukraine's going to give up what is their largest bargaining chip I could see them holding right now is the momentum they have going into, obviously, the summer offensive months, the control that they have over the land bridge, like that obviously is raising their stock as far as any negotiations that will or would be taking place. Like, you want to go to that position, you want to go to those talks with the greatest amount of, momentum, the greatest things in your hand that you can go to. So it'd be ridiculous for them to give that up and say, okay, yep, we agreed to end by this timeline, knowing that Russia would never agree to it, or if they did agree to it, never to stick to it anyway.
Look at this Telegraph. Look at this Telegraph headline. Ukraine turns Russia's land bridge into a highway of death. This is Kyiv's drone campaign on the R-280. There are 4 of them that were hit. They're using a pontoon bridge now in one of the areas where where the bridge was functional. A lot of them haven't been taken down entirely. They've just been too damaged to carry munitions and other stuff. You could probably sneak civilian cars through and out as a way to escape. It's really smart. But if you're driving big trucks full of fuel and ammo or missile batteries,
so much of a backup with just the military vehicles, the fuel, the resupply vehicles, that I don't even know. From what I saw a bunch of satellite photos of trucks.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! So,
hooray!
I think I think one of the things that we can kind of see a bright area in all this nonsense about the Iran Memorandum of Understanding, which, if anybody calls it a deal, they deserve a digital slapping. You should send a message to them with a GIF of someone, my sister, my daughter. It's just absurd. Like, there just isn't one. It's a memorandum of understanding, and they should, how Trump was all mad about the SAVE Act? It's the Save America Act, okay? Get it right. Well, this is a memorandum of understanding, which is so flaccid and pathetic compared to a deal. I mean, can you imagine how his book would have sold had it been The Art of the Memorandum of Understanding? Like, it just...
Yeah.
It's
almost
so
as absurd as like Fox News or Barack Ravid saying that like the ceasefire is still in place as they're reporting on an Apache helicopter getting shot down, or like an F-35 being painted, or 5 U.S. bases being struck with medium-range ballistic missiles. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? A ceasefire by definition means the firing needs to cease. You know
right?
I mean?
Exactly.
I'm no Rhodes scholar, but I do understand at least that much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like they should just have a light fire and spell light L-I-T-E like beer.
Hello there.
It's so stupid. Meanwhile,
lots of people don't know this, but dumb is actually just spelled with a B.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't believe it though. I think it's fake news. I love when we all find out at the same time what Donald Trump just found out. So one of the big things I want to talk about at the tail end of this is, and this goes towards the change in how warfare is happening, and that Ukraine is the testing field for it. And this is increasingly going to be both what we are using in the West and what we will be up against, as they are finding out in the Persian Gulf right now. But Ukraine conducted a test in which fully autonomous drones killed Russian soldiers. They had hunter drones flying around picking their own targets. Now, in areas where there are only soldiers. So they're not sending these into cities and other places where they can make mistakes. They're sending them to trenches, and then they this was during field tests, fully autonomous Ukrainian drones killed Russian soldiers, according to Ukrainian drone manufacturer Ars Technica. If true, big news if true, the incident would be another milestone in the war that has spurred unprecedented development of military drones, robots, and artificial intelligence-powered weapons. This is the big spider drone, or the sex copter. Look out.
Vampire.
The vampire. Which
it could be. It's either a vampire.
So Phil,
or,
when I was in Ukraine, and I was lucky enough to get to see you, and hopefully I'll be back in short order. That's something I'd like to get in touch with you about. But I had the opportunity, the privilege of seeing that specific drone being kind of displayed, showing the speed, the range, and stuff like that, just demonstrations. But not only that, to see the robotic ground drones, we got the honor of touring a bunch of different facilities in Kyiv, and to see those go from the situation and the place that they were at while I was there to now, United 24 done a great piece recently on how they're being, put into purpose, being put into action on the front line. So to see the speed in which it went from an idea, just a couple of them in a small factory, to, okay, the Ukrainian military utilizing that and picking up on, the necessity of having those, to it being implemented in the front lines is just, it's mind-blowing how rapid the pace is of the Ukrainians in their technological advancements, whether it be with drone, ground robotics, you name it. And it really is astonishing. And one more thing, we've been lucky enough to team up with NAFO and the 69th Sniffing Brigade again to send a vehicle to the 3rd Operational Battalion, the 3rd Artillery Platoon there. And we've raised over 11,000 euros so far. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's kind enough to go over to Help 99. I think I sent a link to Andrea to be maybe putting in the chat if she was kind enough to do so. So if you could help us get to that 100% goal, and then hopefully, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to in person be handing that over to them in Ukraine. So that would be fantastic.
And somebody's questioning my use of the word sexcopter. It has 6 propellers. Sorry, if it's an octocopter or a quadcopter, this is a sextocopter, and you're just going to have to deal with that and enjoy it when it comes up as a moment of lightness and levity in this craziness. But here's what I would suggest is maybe, just maybe, if you're going to start a war that becomes a drone war, don't do it with a country that is the breadbasket of Europe and supplies grain and food to a big portion of Africa, because they're going to have a bunch of these things. That's what these things are. The sextocopter, you're welcome. These things are agricultural drones. That's what they're there for. They do pesticides. They plant seeds. They monitor crops. Sometimes they even do spot hydration, because if they've got a missing spot in some area where the pipes are broken or whatever, they can do this for a little while. But they have a lot of these, and they carry payloads. These can carry a person, a prone human being. So they've used them a couple times to evacuate people out of from the front lines. The Ukrainians used them several times to do that. But if you're going to pick a fight with somebody, maybe don't accidentally pick a fight with somebody who's years ahead of you on drone warfare. They just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just recently, about 3 months ago, I was out with the Magyar unit.
Right. Hold that up again so we can get a better look at it. Oh, we froze.
A lot of that technology. I saw them doing the Vampire and adapting it to drop 60 millimeter mortars. One of the things, it's decentralized, so you have different Ukrainian groups and independent production laboratories happening at the same time. Right now, there's this. Obviously, there's a fixation on the fiber optic cabling, so that they can't be jammed with this very hair thin wire that gets spooled out behind the drone. I think that that's a stopgap measure. I don't think that technology is going to last because, as you mentioned, AI is increasingly important and becoming more sophisticated. I brought up another episode we did. If you really want to do a deep dive into what at least one laboratory is doing with artificial intelligence and drones, we did episode 66. We did with a guy by the name of Nasser Bigun, who is the CEO of Norda Dynamics in Lviv. And Norda is developing AI so that, one, they don't need the fiber optic, and two, they can program in what is to be hunted and killed. Right. And, once they get within what would normally be jamming radius for the Russians, it won't matter because the AI will take over and it will find the target itself. So we're moving in that direction. And Brian's right. We've got the ground drones that are going on. We've got the sea drones that are going on, and which has completely changed Russia's naval, posturing in the Black Sea. It's made them far more ineffectual in the Black Sea and actually calls into question the entire war because if the Black Sea fleet cannot be based in Crimea, and they won't be as long as Odessa is Ukrainian and can threaten Crimea, there's no reason for this war. So What are they doing? Why are they fighting this war? They've lost control of the Black Sea. They're not going to get a friendly government in Kiev. They're not going to conquer Kiev. The argument that they're doing this for the Donbass and the Russian-speaking people of the region is bupkis. It's an onslaught. That's all it is. It's an excuse to fight a war. The sad thing, and again, we've spoken about this many times, but the sad thing is the conclusion of this war has already been determined. I don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but I do know that Ukraine is going to come out of this war in a far more strong position than Russia will be. The only question is how many more people have to die, how many more Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have to die. I'm not really concerned about Russian soldiers. Frankly, I'm not even really concerned about Russians who might get caught up in attacks from Ukraine.
I feel like you're allowed to care about them. You're allowed to care about them as much as Putin does, which is zero.
Yeah. So the war, the conclusion of this war has already been determined. It's just what does it look like, and what do we have to go through to get to the inevitable end game, which is a victorious. If anything can be victorious in this war, Kiev. So it's just Putin.
Yep.
Go ahead. To build off the back of that, the Russian side seems to be recognizing that more and more. The mill bloggers that I look at on Telegram, people in general that have been following on the Russian side seem to be recognizing more readily the inefficiencies of the Russian military, the lies that the leadership tells, the little tactics that they use to try to propagandize the people into believing that it's going better on the front lines. Like, I'm starting to see a lot more of that being called out by, again, these Russian mill bloggers that not that long ago may have recognized these shortcomings, but definitely weren't putting it in writing on Telegram and other places on social media.
You think that's because Russia shut down Telegram so that it can't be seen in the country, so they're just not policing it the way they did? They don't care what they tell the rest of the world?
It's hard to say what effect that's having. You'd have to obviously ask somebody in Russia, but I haven't seen really a downtick or like a lessening of stuff posted on Telegram by the same channels that I've usually followed to that.
Well, that's because I don't think they were aimed. I don't think they were aimed at the Russians. I think they were aimed at us. I think in many ways what you see the mill bloggers doing is just like fodder for Tucker Carlson and Scott Ritter and Jimmy Dore and idiots like that who need some, like, I read something new today that said Russia's winning. So they can, increasingly.
There's definitely those people out there for sure, but there are definitely serious Russian military bloggers out there that definitely want to see the Russian military do well and remain victorious in this, and they kind of have their head closer to reality than anybody in the leadership in the Kremlin does. And it seems like that discrepancy, and recently we've seen more videos going around of people in different places in Russia. The fuel shortages we've talked about in Crimea, but it seems to be happening in different places in Russia as well, not just Crimea. So, it seems like more and more people on the Russian side are starting to at least feel the war. If you're not in St. Pete or Moscow, maybe it's because of the fuel shortages, or obviously because of the amount of Russians that have lost family and friends in this war already. Whatever it may be, it seems to be getting closer to the Russians' doorstep.
Right. Also, we're at the end of the show. I want to thank you guys. Don't forget, guys, both Philip Bittner has a new On the Edge on Sundays. Check that out. And
tomorrow is Natalia Gumenyuk, who is the head of a journalism NGO
we're right up against the bottom. But I just want to, and Boston Brian's got a show tomorrow, so you can Shot Chaser those guys. Appreciate you both being with me today, and I will see you guys later, and I get to stop talking for the next 36 hours.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
The station that puts facts
Thank you,
first.
Chicago, for putting up with me today. You did great.
Thanks, Chicago.
Love you guys. Yeah. And you guys are awesome. Thanks, Boston Brian, for being here as well, for filling in. And Phil, bless you.
We'll figure out if you do a broadcast other than Sunday, Brian. Let me know, and maybe we can arrange something. But
yeah,
Sunday it conflicts with my premiere of my show. So,
understand.
But if you want to get another day, or if you want to pre-record it, just let me know.
I'll shoot you a message.
Yeah,
all right,
love
man.
it. All right,
Thanks,
cheers, guys.
Thanks, Hal.
Yep, thank you both. Appreciate you. Means a lot, and thanks. A big round of applause for Boston Brian and Phil coming in today, and thank you guys. It wasn't a half a bad. I could speak. That show wasn't half bad considering I had about all of 45 minutes of sleep on the plane. I'm not kidding. Show finished. Mark P will verify this. Show finished, and we were chit-chatting with people, even though I shouldn't have, till and then load out. I was basically back at my hotel at 1:00 in the morning, and my flight was at 5 a.m. and it was an hour drive to the airport. So you do the math on when you have to be an hour drive, and then you have to be an hour before. I had to put gas in and return my rental car, which is an extra something minutes, and then you have to take the train from the rental car place to your terminal and then walk to your gate and go through security. So stack that up. How much time do you think I had at the hotel? And if you guessed 70 minutes, you'd be right. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there and all the love and support. And thank you guys for Treva. I was saying thank you to you guys during the whenever I'm doing this is the sign language for thank you. And when other people are talking, I just want to make sure that I get to do that. But you and DC 22577 deserve a direct shout out. Thank you so much for that. And Selma and Rock's Roll Son, bless you guys as well. And Joel, really appreciate you guys today. It means a lot. At this point with the Nerd Halen shows, the other guys make a little money on it. I lose money on the show, basically, because it's just how it works. But I love doing it, and that's that. So thank you for the mean faces on Facebook. It's a good way to help. Bits also, or stars help on there. Bits are on Twitch. I'm fine. I'm okay. How are you? I'm projecting like the White House.
Hello there.
I will see you guys. Thank you. Out of silent, Patrick. You kept it together pretty well. I like to think I did. I may not have, but that's okay. So best I can do on that little sleep, and I appreciate you guys understanding. I'm gonna go rest my voice, and I will see you guys Monday for sure. And we'll just take it from there. I'm just gonna call it. The memorandum of understanding is not a deal, and I don't even think that thing's going to be signed. And if it does, nobody actually believes it's going to be. They're going to live up to it. Shit, people don't even think we're going to live up to it. Does anybody trust Trump not to hit something? Come on. Oh, thank you so much. And if you appreciate the show, hit the like, check out our clips, all that kind of stuff, all the short form chat. I'm not going to sell the show. Yeah, I got to do that somewhere. My brain's got holes in it. Appreciate you guys. All right. Much love.
In the year of misery, on the day of my 19, in the hour that goes unseen, in a second comes the thing. I know it's real and then it's gone. Is it like this for everyone? In the space between I do, in a heartbeat it slips through, between a crystal and the floor, a wave and the shore, a perfect word that I can't say, but I keep trying anyway. In broken time, a dream sublime, in my perforated mind, awoken, unbroken, unspoken, a perforated mind. A perforated mind. My perforated mind.
Thank you, Michael.